Not a perfect game because Notre Dame did have to do a 3-and-out punt series in the first quarter, but very close to Prister. 7 touchdowns on 9 drives, and then also a kneel-it-out, which is the coach's favorite type of drive as the Irish destroy Navy 49-10. No penalties, no turnovers, second time in Notre Dame football history.
Just about everything you could ask for, including the good news before the game. And sorry for Blake Horvath not being able to play, but when you hear that, you know that Navy's not going to be able to play their full complement of offense. And Braxton Woodson did a good job of running the football in the first half. He had 20 carries. And really, he was the only guy that they couldn't stop. And once they started to hone in on him in the second half, they really had no chance. They only had 228 yards total offense, 206 yards rushing, which is 111 yards under their season average, their nation-leading season average. And it was really pretty much everything that you could ask for. Notre Dame, as you said, Tim, really only 8 real full possessions, and they scored 7 touchdowns on those. The kicking game, it wasn't a night to kick field goals, but you got everything out of Eric Schmidt that you wanted. 7 for 7 on extra points. I believe 8 for 8.
8 for 8 on touchbacks.
Yeah. So it was pretty much a perfect game for Notre Dame. And just what the doctor ordered, playing a Navy team that can make things uncomfortable, but it never really got uncomfortable other than when they tied it 7-7 in the first half.
The loss of Horvath made it really impossible for Navy to compete in this game, but their triple option worked in the first 18 minutes. Not triple option, excuse me. Their option worked in the first 18 minutes. Really nice 41-yard scramble by Woodson there to give them a chance just to keep it close early. But Notre Dame imposing their will in the passing game, the downfield passing game. And C.J. Carr, an economical 13 for 16, 3 touchdowns, no picks again. Fantastic pass protection, which he has gotten most of the time other than the Miami game. And I asked him about it, and he said he went to the half wondering if he had ever been touched. I don't think he was touched until he threw what became a pass interference 15-yard gain to Cam Williams when he got kind of hit on that play. That offensive line has protected him very well. Yeah,
great question by you, because he said he thought about it at halftime, how well he had been protected. I didn't think early on that they were getting a whole lot of, everybody saw that they didn't get a whole lot of push early on in the run game, but it eventually opened up, and C.J. Carr did exactly what he needed to do. 13 for 16, Kenny Minchie 3 for 3. Don't turn the football over. He got the protection that he needed. It was in the balance of the offense, 253 pass, 249 rush. That's exactly what you were shooting for. Red zone offense was very good, 3 for 3 in the first half.
It was 4 for 4 really, because the kneel down is what they didn't score on. So there's going to show 4 for 5, but it's going to be
right 3 for 3 in the first half. That's what I'm saying. They started out and scored when they had to, built a little bit of a lead in the first half. It's like they were up 11 at halftime. So you say, okay, mission accomplished in the first half, and then your first 3 possessions, you score touchdowns in the third quarter and put it away.
Defense played very well, but the offense played well enough where Horvath being there would not have mattered either, because they were still going to score 49, if not 56 points if Blake Horvath played. But Jaden Ausberry, outstanding game. Kingston Viliamoasa, very good game, and I was just intrigued, and I had to ask Coach Freeman. It was clearly an intentional rotation in the defensive tackles, because you had Sevillano in the second drive. You had Mookum in the fourth drive. Mookum ended up with a couple of really nice plays. Elijah Hughes had to run stuff. Jared Dawson played well in the first half. They obviously showed they could play in the 3 practices and I guess a couple practices during the bye week. You don't normally trust that many defensive linemen. And freshman Madden Farimo was in real. He doesn't even get in against other teams in this situation. Their football acumen must have really picked up these last couple of weeks to play that many guys.
Well, and you called it all week about Jared Dawson. You thought he had the body type to do it, and he was really kind of the guy that they rotated other people around. Like you said, Mookum came in and did some good things. I think Hughes eventually kind of settled into the spot. Onye made some plays. It was just, when you lose Rubio and Heinisch, and you know that those 2 guys are pretty accomplished at playing against option football, maybe it's a little bit of a surprise that they rotated that many, but I think they went into it thinking, all right, look, we've got to put as many people out there as we can if necessary. And it really, really worked well. And again, the triple option part of it never really came into play.
Yeah.
It was the quarterback.
Right.
And,
It was, yeah, you're right. It was 41-yard scramble was the big play. There
Right.
was not much else where their heads were turning, and that was that, there's that Navy play. You didn't really see that.
And, of course, no passing game. They had 22 yards, which with Horvath they certainly would have had a little bit more of that. Heidenreich has been really good. I think he caught maybe one pass. So, yeah, certainly that compromised Navy. But, look, they opened the door. That situation with Horvath opened the door for Notre Dame, and they barged right in.
I think the real thing with Horvath is Notre Dame just didn't need to respect the passing game, and that made it really tough to run the football. Yeah. But I want switching to Notre Dame's offense. Malachi Fields, I'd asked if he was intentionally targeted. I guess it wasn't really. We're going to Malachi Fields as much as, well, we're getting one-on-one with Malachi Fields. So C.J. Carr went there, but kudos to Will Pauling for a 27-yard catch and run. We had 19 after the catch. We heard announced in the press box. Jordan Faison, couple runs after the catch to move the chains. Those are the type of things that keep Notre Dame's offense humming. When Pauling and Faison do that, and you can hit Fields downfield, and then the guy named Jeremiah Love just makes the highlight reel run of the day, it's a tough offense to stop. And I don't know. We talked about the inefficiencies, and I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on our message board. You see some inefficiencies. You look up, they punted once. And they scored touchdown drives on 93-yard drive, 94-yard drive, 73-yard drive, 65. It was a very good offensive day.
I took a peek at the message board. I had to get away from it because I just didn't understand.
Never do that during a game.
I didn't understand the panic. And then I think at one point I read about why is Osbury in there? Osbury's in there because he knows how to play the game. So really great execution by Notre Dame on both sides of the ball and really all three phases with Eric Schmidt coming through. The only guy that didn't, James Rendell had one punt. He shanked it. It was a lousy night to be punting and kicking.
That's right.
But they only need him one time. And again, that was another key that you pointed to pregame.
Final comment about Jeremiah Love, because we're either going to get to watch him for 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 more games in a Notre Dame uniform. The 48-yard run is going to be a highlight reel across the country. It's probably the 10th or 12th best play I've ever seen him make. That's how good Jeremiah Love is. If you just were going to go back and look at the last 2 years, he's phenomenal.
We're not in the publicity, department. It's not our job to promote a guy for the Heisman Trophy, and we've really barely ever even mentioned it.
Yeah.
How is he not a guy that goes to New York?
He's the best player in the country. I don't know if he'll win the Heisman, but he's the best player in the country.
Right, yeah. I mean, whether he wins it or not, he might not have all the stats of somebody or an undefeated quarterback at Indiana, what have you. But I think we can say after 9 games that the guy is, well, everybody knows he's spectacular. He belongs in New York. He belongs to have votes cast for him.
Last note, because we got a text from down on the field, identity will rename nameless. Leonard Moore did go into the tent the last time he was in a defensive series, but he came back out, was jogging around, had his helmet on. That is huge news because they're going to play Pittsburgh, and that is not Pittsburgh's offense, and you're going to need Leonard Moore out there. Christian Gray, I expect him back. Yeah. Listed as questionable. We know that doesn't necessarily mean they're questionable, but this is not a game for Christian Gray to play in. If you're having a hip, a thigh, a groin, anything wrong in this weather, you're probably going to sit out against.
Yeah, you're going to need that against Pittsburgh. They have, Mason Heinzel has done a really good job for them. They've got about 3 or 4 wide receivers that are putting up big numbers, led by Kenny Johnson. You need Christian Gray back. You need a healthy Leonard Moore. Hopefully that all works out next week.
I haven't seen every score, but I know Notre Dame got some help in the playoffs from behind a little bit, or in the tertiary area. Enjoy this if you're a Notre Dame fan. 49-10 over Navy. Not something we expected all week because, Navy can always pose some problems. But the Irish back humming again after a little bit of a blip on the offensive radar. For Tim Priester, I'm Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated. Thank you for watching Instant Analysis, brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame and Northern Indiana Event Center in snowy Elkhart, Indiana.